I was 24 when I learned the easiest way to misread a room is to walk into it already convinced. You know the ending. The Albright mansion had the kind of silence that made your footsteps feel like trespass. Marble floors, walnut panels, old portraits that followed you like witnesses. Rain kept worrying the roof. Thunder stitched the storm into the night. I'd come back to this house because my father's death dragged me to it, the way a magnet drags a needle across a table. Wills needed reading. Accounts needed reconciling. And my aunt, my father's younger sister, needed to see me. "Aaron," she'd said on the phone, smooth as a conductor cueing strings. "Come tonight. There are delicate matters." Delicate in the Albright dictionary usually meant expensive, shameful, or both. At 10 on the dot, a housemaid knocked on the guest suite I'd been given. "Sir," she whispered, eyes lowered, "Madam requests you in the master chambers." I nearly corrected her. She meant my aunt, but old houses like ours bend language the same way they bend light. I followed the corridor past the night-dimmed lamps, past the grandfather clock breathing seconds like a slow animal, and I reminded myself of my plan. Keep calm, keep quiet, keep the recorder running in my pocket. I had reasons to be cautious. The estate lawyer's numbers didn't add, a trust was missing, and the only signature repeated across the ledgers belonged to Aunt Lila. Her door was open. Light rolled out, like a welcome I didn't trust. She sat on the edge of the carved four-poster robe, tied as if she'd only just remembered decency. The robe was silk, champagne-colored, the kind that made a whisper when it moved. She looked carefully unruffled, dark hair lying like a thought that wouldn't leave, lipstick that had nothing to do with sleep. On the wall above the headboard, an oil painting of winter fields watched over us, a hush in frame. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Shut the door, won't you?" I did. Not because she asked, but because I wanted the hallway's draft to stop snaking at my ankles. She didn't invite me to sit. That was the first move. Keep a guest standing, and they balance on their answers. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I'm holding," I said. "Grief is a tide," she murmured. "We don't notice how it reorders the coastline until we look back and realize the map is wrong. Align with polish." Lila treated language the way some treat jewelry. Select, expensive, meant to glow under soft light. I stayed near the bedpost, hands in my pockets, as if I were stowing away the urge to fidget. The room smelled like bergamot and something deeper, maybe sandalwood. "All choices are messages," my father used to say. "Even perfume." "I called you," she continued, "because we are family, and because family should keep certain matters handled." "Handled?" I echoed, and made a show of looking at the robe, the way it crossed her collarbone, at the perfectly staged disorder of the covers. I let my eyes wander and then took them back, quick, as if embarrassed. I was playing my part, the nephew who felt the pull of an inappropriate gravity, but refused to tumble. She wanted me off balance. Desire is a fog. It blurs the safe path. "Fine. Let her try." "You think I'm playing a game," she said, reading me reading her. "I think this house is a board," I replied. "And every room is a square. People move through pretending chance is in charge." She laughed quietly. "You sound like your father. Is that a compliment tonight?" She patted the mattress beside her. "Come, sit. I want to show you something, but it needs to stay between us." I didn't move. Instead, I leaned one shoulder against the column, the wood cool through my shirt. "You can show me from there." Her eyes lingered on me, measuring. I'd seen that kind of gaze before, the sort that makes you feel like the answer to a question you didn't know was being asked. She crossed one leg over the other, the silk shifting like water. "You always were stubborn," she said. "It's almost endearing." "Almost?" I asked. "Depends how long you plan to keep pretending you don't want to know what I'm offering." I wasn't sure if she meant the documents, the truth, or something else entirely, I was thinking. Either way, I decided to leave before I found out. "It's late," I said. She smiled, slow and knowing. Late is when the energy I need for the night comes out. That was my cue. I nodded, turned, and walked toward the door. My hand hadn't even touched the handle when a polite voice behind me said, "Sir, Madam asked that you remain in the room with her tonight." I froze. One of her security men stood at the end of the hall, large enough to block a doorway with a shoulder. "Everything all right?" I asked, forcing a laugh. "Madam's instructions," he said simply. I looked back at her. She was still on the bed, still smiling. "Don't look so surprised, Aaron. The world outside is dangerous at this hour." "I'll take my chances," I muttered. "Suit yourself," she said, "but so will they." As I went back and approached her to really understand why she's doing all this, just as I entered, the automatic door lock to her room switched. Then she came closer to me and started kissing and rubbing my stuff. I pushed back, but already my whole body was already charged and ready to drill the hell out her. I have never been touched or romanced this way before. That night I righted her James Bonds. She screamed loudly, "Boy, go harder. You ain't going anywhere, not in 5 years, but forever." I rid her till she came. The house made strange noises. The next morning, breakfast appeared outside my door. Coffee, eggs, a folded note that read, "Don't try the back gate. It squeaks." She said, "That's the refill you'll be needing for the next round tonight." I laughed out loud. That was the first time I realized she wasn't just manipulative, she was thorough. By the third day, I was planning escape attempt number 1. The plan was simple: slip out while her guards changed shifts at noon. I'd steal one of the golf carts, make it down the driveway, and hitch a ride at the crossroads. It would have worked if not for the sprinkler system. I made it halfway across the lawn before a jet of freezing water hit me square in the face. Then another. Then another. The sprinklers had sensors. And the sensors, I learned too late, were tied to the security alarms. Within seconds, a siren wailed. 2 guards appeared out of nowhere, running toward me like I'd just stolen the crown jewels. I threw my hands up. I was... gardening? One of them raised an eyebrow. "In suede shoes, sir?" They escorted me back inside, dripping wet. Lila was waiting in the foyer with a towel and an expression halfway between amusement and affection. "If you wanted a shower," she said, "you could have just asked." "Do you always imprison your guests?" She smiled. "Only the interesting ones." Attempt number 2 came 2 nights later. I'd noticed one of the kitchen windows didn't latch properly. My plan? Wait until everyone slept, climb out quietly, and walk down to the service road. I got as far as the window before I realized it was alarmed, too. When I lifted it an inch, a soft click sounded from the wall. Red light flashed. Somewhere in the house, a bell rang. I ducked behind the counter, heart pounding. Footsteps echoed in the hall. The kitchen door opened, and in stepped the same guard holding a flashlight. He aimed it straight at me. "Midnight snack, sir?" I sighed. "Yeah." I was checking if the fridge still works. Lila appeared behind him in a robe, perfectly calm. "It does," she said. "What doesn't work, apparently, is your sense of direction." I was getting fresh air. "In the refrigerator?" I didn't answer. She handed me a glass of milk. "Drink," she said softly. "You'll sleep better." I wanted to protest, but I drank anyway. She was right. I slept like a rock. When I woke the next morning, my hands and feet were cuffed to the bed, and bedroom window had been nailed shut. Then the door creaked open with a flash of a blue light. She was holding a whip this time. She said, "I love how you handle me. Let's take a new shape this morning. Just to spice things up, you know." She started kissing and rubbing my stuff till it was standing like the Statue of Liberty. While she rid me, whipped me, saying, "It's your turn to moan." I felt terrible, a combination of pain and pleasure at the same time. I asked her why she's doing that. She said, "That's how we feel on penetration. Pain and pleasure." I couldn't believe what I was experiencing. Is she trying to switch roles now? I was drained of energy at the end of the session. Then she uncuffed me and said, "Get ready for midnight session. It's going to be hardcore." By the end of the week, I'd started keeping a notebook titled, "Ways Out That Won't Get Me Arrested." The list was short. Still, attempt number 3 felt promising. I'd overheard one of the staff saying the gardener left the west gate unlocked for deliveries. I waited until dusk, pretended to be on the phone, and casually strolled that way. The gate was indeed unlocked. Victory tasted close. Then I pushed it, and the gate refused to budge. The chain had been replaced. A voice behind me said, "Looking for something, sir?" It was the gardener. He smiled politely. "Madam said you might lose your way. She asked me to accompany you back." At that point, I almost respected her. She was 3 steps ahead every time. Back in the living room, she poured me a drink. "You keep trying," she said. "That's good. I like persistence. You know, let's channel your persistence to a 5 rounds straight." "I'm not a pet, Lila." "No," she said thoughtfully. "Pets are easier to keep." By attempt number 4, I decided stealth wasn't my strong suit. I'd go loud instead. After breakfast, I marched straight to her study. "I'm leaving," I said flatly. She looked up from her book, unimpressed. "All right. Just like that?" She nodded. "Of course. I'll have my driver take you wherever you wish." I blinked. "Wait, really?" "Yes," she said, reaching for the intercom. "Gregory, bring the car around." For the first time in days, I felt hopeful. I even whistled while packing. 10 minutes later, the car was ready. Gregory, a stoic man, with shoulders like an oak wardrobe, opened the door for me. I climbed in. Lila stood on the steps, waving. As the car rolled down the driveway, I almost laughed. Freedom! We reached the front gate. Gregory pressed a button. The gates opened slowly, majestically. Then, the car turned right back toward the house. "Wrong way," I said. "No, sir," Gregory replied. "Madam requested we circle the estate for fresh air." I stared at him. "Fresh air?" "Yes, sir. She said you needed perspective." We circled for an hour. When we finally stopped, I was back at the mansion. Leela waited by the fountain, smiling as I stepped out. "How was the ride?" she asked sweetly. "Enlightening." "I hoped so." "How about you give me a ride since you enjoyed my ride?" she slyly said. I was so dumbfounded. "Don't you get tired, ma'am," I said. Attempt number 5 involved technology. I'd hidden my phone from her, or so I thought. One evening, while she entertained guests in the parlor, I slipped away and texted my friend, "Help! Trapped in crazy woman's mansion. Send police." Before I could hit send, the screen flickered. Message failed. Then, a text appeared on my screen from an unknown number. Nice try. I looked up. Lila was standing in the doorway, holding a glass of wine. "Cell service is terrible here," she said. "You'd be better off writing letters. How did you—" She smiled. "Trade secret." That night, I decided enough was enough. No more sneaking, no more pretending. I needed a plan that would confuse even her, so I pretended to give up. I apologized over dinner, told her she was right, that I'd been restless, ungrateful. She watched me with that quiet, curious smile. "Finally," she said, "you're learning to adapt." The next morning, she let me wander the grounds unsupervised. I played along, whistling, hands in pockets. Then, when she least expected it, I made my move. There was a delivery truck parked outside the kitchen gate, engine idling. The driver was distracted, signing papers. I slipped behind the truck, climbed into the back, and hid under a tarp of fruit crates. The engine started. The gate opened. We rolled out, freedom at last. Except, 10 minutes later, the truck stopped. The back door swung open. Lila stood there, arms crossed. "Bananas? Really?" I groaned. How did you even—" She laughed, genuinely amused. "You think I don't check the manifests?" I jumped out, brushing dirt off my clothes. "You have too much time on your hands." "I have exactly enough," she said. "Come back inside before you embarrass us both." The guards started calling me the runner. I became a household joke. Even the housemaid once asked if I wanted her to pack me snacks for next time. The only one not laughing was me, so I plotted my masterpiece, the final attempt. It started with a distraction. I borrowed a small kitchen torch from the chef and accidentally burned a napkin near the curtains. Not enough to start a fire, just enough to cause panic. As the alarms rang, staff scrambled. Lila came rushing in, demanding explanations. "I'm so sorry," I said. "It was a candle." While she shouted orders, I slipped away, sprinted down the corridor, and ducked into the laundry room. I grabbed a uniform cap, pushed a cart of clean sheets, and rolled right past the guards. They didn't even look twice. Out the service door, across the courtyard, down the hill. The wind hit my face, and it felt like rebirth. For the first time in weeks, the gates were open, real, wide, inviting. I ran, and I made it. No sirens, no footsteps, no voice calling me back, just open road and silence. When I finally reached the small town 3 miles away, I collapsed on a bench, laughing like an idiot. People stared. I didn't care. I was free. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Lila. "You could have just asked for the keys." I stared at the screen, half exasperated, half impressed. For someone so controlling, she had a wicked sense of humor. I stayed in town for a few days, half expecting her men to show up, but they never did. The more distance I put between us, the more I realized I'd been living inside a spell made of charm, fear, and fascination. Sometimes I caught myself missing it, the quiet of the mansion, her maddening composure, even the ridiculous guards who called me runner. But then I'd remember the note on my breakfast tray, the locked windows, the way she smiled when she said you'll sleep better. Freedom wasn't peaceful at first. It was noisy, lonely, unpredictable. But it was mine. A week later, a package arrived at the inn where I was staying. Inside was a small silver key and a note that read, "In case you ever miss being caught." I laughed until tears came. Then I tossed the key into the river. That night, lying under a cheap ceiling fan, I realized something. For all her control, her traps, her endless games, she'd also taught me how to value escape, how to fight for it with everything I had. Lila might have been many things, brilliant, dangerous, impossible, but she was also unforgettable. And every time it rains, I still hear her laugh in the thunder, amused that I finally got away.